What's up, Mad Lads? Welcome to Mad Lad Hours.
The new rebranded name.
Yes, if you don't know, we changed from Weeb Hut to
Table
Mad
Talk.
Lad. So I'm Skyking, your host, and I'm here with my partner.
General Gemmel from Midnight Center.
And welcome to the new chat. Today we are discussing anime sequels, movie sequels, game sequels that didn't live up to the hype in general.
And as sort of a prefix for why this came upon, recently Sky here actually just finally checked out Code Geass R3.
Yes.
The
Resurrection of Lelouch.
yes. Not the anticipated, because nobody was asking for a sequel after R2, but it did come out of nowhere, so there we go. And I guess with the current discussions that came from Last of Us Part 2, which, if you're aware of the zeitgeist that came from that, you probably already know those discussions that are coming about of people talking whether or not it needed to happen.
Exactly. So before we begin, we just want to give you a warning. There's going to be spoilers for both The Last of Us, if you know of it, and Code Geass. So if you don't want to hear any about it, like, click on the new video.
And I guess if whoever handles it, hopefully we also lay out anything else we happen to spoil in here.
Yeah,
since this is a discussion about anything with a sequel.
Yes.
So with that prefix out of the way,
We'll start it off with my experience with Code Geass.
right?
So, I'm a huge Code Geass fan. I started watching it back when it aired in 2006, the dub, and then the 2008, which I sadly had to watch in Japanese. If you don't know why I said sadly, is because I really enjoy the English dub cast for Code Geass. I hold it over the Japanese dub, and I'll fight anyone who says otherwise. It's perfect in English, and I know that sounds kind of really what's the word I'm looking for?
Hot take.
Yeah, because it's gonna sound perfect for other people in their language.
I feel like Code Geass is one of the ones they argue that it is better in dub than it is in Japanese.
Yeah, for sure, dude. It's just the emotions are just way there, over 100.
Shout outs to JYB.
Yeah, whoever they are. Who are they?
Lelouch.
Oh, JYB? Why'd you abbreviate?
I don't know. I just figured to go with the short version rather than his full name.
Oh, okay. Johnny Young Bosch.
Yep.
So,
anyways, yeah, back to R3.
Yeah, I watched R3. I was hyped when I heard they were making a new movie. The thing is that when I did hear about it, I was like, why? Why are you making a new movie? Because R2, which is just the second season of Code Geass, ended on the most perfect note that I can think of.
Right.
He achieved his goal, even though at the cost of a big sacrifice. Yeah. I'm trying to be the most vague about it, so I'd be
have it. Yeah, we're not trying to completely spoil, but we do have to
there are some
have
parts.
a means of having to discuss what we have in regards to what we expect later on.
Yeah, it's there has to be content.
Yeah, the context behind it. But anyways,
yeah. So R3 came out. I started to watch it, and I was like, okay, this is cool. And then we knew since the trailer of it that Lelouch is coming back. He lived. He is the guy who, if you zoom in, riding the carriage,
just right there.
Right there.
I'm Lelouch.
I am Lelouch.
Britannia number whatever.
So he is, Lelouch. And when I didn't expect that they were gonna do the I lost my memory crap.
The amnesia storyline.
The amnesia trope.
Right.
And there are some parts that. Look, my take on this movie is that I like it for its action and just the just the memory of the cast coming back after so many years. Because you got to remember that this show ended in 2008.
Yeah, and that's at least just on the Japanese side.
Yeah, that's on the Japanese side. And yes, it did have spin-offs, but they didn't have the whole cast. Orange Boy was missing, so
what was it? What were the spin-off movies called?
So the spin-off movie was Akito of the Exiled.
There we go, Akito of the Exile.
And
is that like the only spin-off that they had, or were there some other ones?
Well, technically, we're counting like the mangas and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, there is
they
that.
They did have other spin-offs, but since
I
they
guess
were never animated,
the ones that people are more usually aware of.
I'm pretty sure not many people are aware of the manga ones.
Yeah, so that's why I was like thinking about like if Akito's like the only one that exists.
And they also had an OVA, which was the Nanali in Wonderland.
Okay.
Which was just the Alice in Wonderland,
right? But
with Code Geass characters.
Right. So it's just more like a fan service.
Yeah, it was a fan service.
Yeah, I guess fan service would be the word there.
And that one was never even dubbed because
that seems like a property that's usually like it exists, but we're not really gonna touch it.
Like they're just like, you guys were asking for Code Geass stuff. Here's this, but it's not exactly what you wanted. But here it is. You got it.
Here it's something.
It's something. And with Code Geass R3 is, I like it, but I think it didn't need to exist.
Right.
That's why our whole topic discussion is
happening right
sequels that were kind of not that good,
right?
Or unneeded is another word that we could use. So there was because the problem with Code Geass is that prior to the
release
to the release of the whole movie, they had a trailer and they were they're hyping it up, and they basically said, if you want to know the whole story, watch these 3 movies,
right? The compilation of films,
which is the seasons in movie form,
right?
The thing is that or in something
right
in three movies.
Yeah.
So a lot of content was missing. A lot of episodes were gone, and they cut it, and then they retconned some things.
Right.
And that's where my first major gripe is with it. Like freaking. Should I say her name? I'm gonna say her name. Colin. Not Colin. I'm sorry. I'm just blanking now because I can't remember her name.
Oh, well, there you go. Now you're making it spoiler free. You're good to go.
Okay, well, basically, girl who likes Lelouch in season 2 and in season 1 does not die where she needed to die in season 2.
No, it's not Mary, right?
Millie, Colin. Oh, why am I blanking on the names? Oh my god. Okay, so basically there's a character in season 2 that's supposed to die, but in the R3 movie, she is alive. She's alive. And I was hella confused when they said that. I was like, wait a minute. How is she? Is she like a ghost or like
reanimated somehow?
Oh no, and I thought something because
hallucination from him.
No, it's more of because there is a supernatural aspect to the show.
Okay, I mean the Geass, so right? You have to sort of accept that there is some mystics of elements. But anyways,
so I thought it was. Oh, I'm sorry, I just got his name, Shirley.
Oh, Shirley. Okay,
orange hair girl.
Yeah,
she dies in season 2, and I thought that was it.
Right,
and. I accepted it, even though it was a character that could have been a potential love interest to Lelouch, since he had a lot. Mm-hmm. But her death was meaningful because it pushed his resolve even further. He wanted to complete his goal, right? But in R3, they just retconned the whole thing, She never knew the identity of Zero. Her father never died because of Zero, so she never needed to die in season 2.
Right. which they don't explain if you don't watch the freaking movies. Yeah, that was... I haven't seen Code Geass myself, but that was something, like, I'm... Because every now and again, you'll notice that, like, whenever people do a new thing, which involves having to do something about, like, an old, like, not property, but, like, the older work they did first, either A, they work with that old one and sort of just hope that people learn to work and accept to check out that old one, or they do something new and you have to follow it from there on out. And that was always one of the things that, like, because for me personally, I'm a guy who watches everything in stuff that's been released. So if I were to watch Code Geass, I would watch still that season 1 and season 2. Mm-hmm. Even though the movies exist and are, I guess, with the way everything is, technically the canonical versions you have to work with if you want to go into R3.
Yeah. And
that's why it's like always been sort of a hold off on my end, but that's like a different discussion. But overall, I remember that was like one of the things I saw when people were talking about, like, yeah, if you want to go into R3, you're gonna have to go with the movie versions because of some of the elements that were changed.
Yeah. Aside from the Shirley thing, I just really did not. I was not happy with the way Lelouch regained his memories. Mm. I'm still confused, and I rewatched it another time. You know, like a second time.
You mean R3, right?
R3, yes.
Okay.
I rewatched R3 a second time, and I'm still confused how he got his memory, because...
You think it's like an element that's mentioned in the recap movies?
No, it's more of an element that his passion was the reason why he regained his memories, you know?
Okay.
I think that's a
cop-out?
Cop-out, you know, like...
The power of friendship.
It's essentially the power of friendship. It's essentially that. And I hate that. It's like, give me a better reason, you know? Like, I don't know. This is really bad.
Yeah. I mean, again, I haven't seen it yet, but, like, I have to imagine, like, when you build that sequel after nearly, a decade?
It's like 12 years.
Yeah, like over a decade for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah, you always have to figure out how you're going to make a proper sequel that, like, functions to the world that you're doing. Because, like, what was the thing? Like, how much time has passed between the quote-unquote end of the third movie and then R3?
A year?
Yeah. So that it's a thing where it's like, you're having to build a story that, even though it hasn't been series, you're still having the function that everyone else who's going in there has to experience this, though time has gone enough to work with what is given to you in there.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's a bit of a tricky situation, and
that's why I'm in the side that it's one of those things that while I do appreciate the I don't know who decided to, the creator or the studio. Mm-hmm. To, like, make another movie.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that was better left
on the table.
How it ended. Mm. For example, it was the same worry I had for God of War 3. God of War 4. I'm sorry. Yeah, God of War 4, the new reboot that came out in 2018.
Right.
I was worried when they announced a new God of War. I'm like, the game ended perfectly on 3. Why would you need to make a new one? And they proved me wrong, man. They proved me so wrong. Because God of War 4 was a masterpiece. In my opinion.
Yeah, I was going to say, depending on who you ask.
Exactly. Because,
you can find those group of people who do think that it's not good.
Yeah. And history repeats itself. As we're recording right now, it's July 22nd, 2020. Right. Tomorrow they are announcing Halo Infinite, which is supposed to be the sequel to Halo
5 Guardians.
Halo 5 Guardians. But my point was Halo 3 ended perfectly, right?
Right.
You could have they left him as the hero who would save the whole galaxy, but was lost in the process.
Right.
You know?
The unsung hero.
Yeah, exactly.
Or, like, people knew, but, like, at the same time, basically the greatest sacrifice.
Yeah, the greatest, he sacrificed himself for the greater good.
Right.
And you could have left Master Chief hibernating for years to come, and I would have been perfectly fine with that, you know? Granted, I was one of those guys who was like Halo 4 on YouTube, and it will get
Super
clickbait.
Saiyan 10 million.
Super Saiyan 10 million, you know?
There's gotta be something more out there.
Right? Exactly. So, or you know, for more nostalgia, you know, and you probably, if you played the game, you can probably relate.
Right.
After finishing Kingdom Hearts 2, you would type in Kingdom Hearts 3.
Oh man, now I have my own thing about Kingdom Hearts, but we'll get to that later.
We'll get to that point. And well, right now we're in a situation. Is Halo Infinite going to be a good sequel? Like, did they get the story down correctly? And when I say correctly, like I mean like it's gonna make sense, because I don't know the story yet.
Right. Or
are they just trying to take out something to make money because they know people are gonna buy it? Because let's be honest, it's a renowned game. It's gonna get sales at the first couple of days.
Yeah, it's kind of like every time it's like Call of Duty will fail, but it's like that still racks into the millions.
Yes, exactly.
So even if the numbers are lower in comparison, it's still making it.
They're making their money back.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you know that does bring up that question about like, because as you said, 3 ended on a perfect note, and then because even the original team that made Halo is not the team who handles it anymore. They evolved into. They're still Bungie, but they're currently the Destiny team.
Yeah, they're the Destiny team.
And Industries 343 were who took over. Mm-hmm. And just like in the God of War situation, creating something where it's like, does it warrant where you need to go? Because like with God of War, the only way it was able to work was if you basically had to just completely rework how the game functioned. Because obviously with God of War, you're telling the story of an older Kratos, and this is going to be the same Kratos as he was younger. Because I'm pretty sure it'd be a little too rehashed if they still used angry Kratos for the newer stuff.
Mechanics, you know, like all hack and slash and move on to the next zone.
Yeah, like just kill everyone in sight that like I feel slightly bad about times.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, that woman in the Poseidon like temple, like I just feel bad every time I think back to it.
That was a different Kratos. He doesn't feel sad.
Yeah, but I'm the one standing there like, guy, can't you throw like a blade of chaos in there? You can just yank it back out when you get over the other side. Trust me, dude.
She'll still die though.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you don't throw her in there. You just throw the blade in there, and then like yank it out when you make it to the other side.
But the point was that the gear was so strong that it was gonna crush, you know, whatever you put in there. That's why she still died.
You're telling me the blades of chaos are gonna lose to a wheel?
Hey man, engineering, torque and stuff.
True.
Gears.
True. Anyways, but yeah, that's. And then that brings up the question about whether it was ever warranted to make the new stuff, which is where, again, because I know, like, with Halo, like, I think 4 did moderately okay.
Yeah. At the end, 4, the story wasn't the best, but they did have something like a backbone, you know, like
I think the
Forerunners and stuff.
Yeah, wasn't it the only complaint about it, though, was the Forerunners?
Yeah, because they seem kind of like wusses, you know, they weren't that written that correctly.
Like, they weren't really introduced properly?
Yeah.
Right.
It's because Forerunners were always, if you don't know Halo, Forerunners were always that ancient race that left the, you know, like rings and all that stuff.
Right. So,
for them to just drop them, like, you know, on us, and they're the main bad guys for him to die with just one single grenade, it wasn't that good, you know? Right. And granted, even in, I don't know if you don't know this, but the Didac, which is the bad guy's name in Halo 4, he doesn't even die in Halo 4. He dies in a comic book that is released later on.
Really? It was in another media that had happened? Wow.
He doesn't die.
So much for that satisfaction.
Exactly. So, it's like, yes, we did see the potential that 343 Industry has, because it's a beautiful game. It's polished really good.
Right.
The story was kind of lacking, but it did have some merit to it. But then it goes into infinite. Then it goes into 5.
Then we get to the problem.
5 was the like, oh my god, why did you make this crap?
Right.
Like, I'm a person who like is willing to try like games that are not that well received, and I still enjoy it.
Right.
Like I enjoy Call of Duty stories.
You enjoy 15.
I enjoy 15.
Final Fantasy 50 for clarity.
Yeah, I love the game. I think it's really really good. But ask the community and they'll crap on it like there's no tomorrow.
I will say though, I don't think it ranks among like the top 3 worst of the series, but it would definitely be, I think, somewhere to the mid-lower side. But anyways, back to Halo.
Hey, yeah, exactly. Like the game was marketed to be like vigilante,
Master Chief.
Master Chief is he's going rogue.
Is he good? Is he bad?
They introduced this other Spartans like, oh, Spartan Lock.
Oh yeah, wasn't it a thing like suddenly like Master Chief was supposed to be the only Spartan, but then like, oh yeah, by the way, these other 3 are alive.
No, Master Chief and the other Spartans were his blue team was always. And it's something that you don't know playing the game because it's only in other medias like comics.
Because it's such a massive world, which I understand that like some are allowed to do that, and I'm not saying nothing can't do that. It's just depending how important a piece of information is, it seems like you would want to put it somewhere in there.
Yeah, for games like this, I think it's one of those things that you should have mentioned it. Somehow, like either through text or through dialogue by like a radio saying something, not officially a cutscene. Not what I'm asking for,
right? But
like something that says
like the BioShock way of like finding those audio recordings,
exactly. Or I know this is not the most popular way, but the Destiny way of hiding it through. Grimoires, or the little freaking cards.
But then that's the equivalent of finding that comic.
Exactly. That's why, while not many people know this, if they only played the main,
just the main 5.
The main 5. But Halo Infinite is basically gonna pull a lot from Halo Wars.
Oh, yeah.
But not many people know this. Because
no one
played Halo Wars.
Everyone hated it a bit.
Yeah, they were like, what? It's
RTS.
It's an RTS game. What the hell is this? It's not the Halo I know. What? Right. Bungie, you suck. Bungie, you suck.
Because it was still under Bungie at the time.
I think it was.
Yeah. Or...
Was it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it wasn't every Halo game under Bungie no matter what.
No, actually, I'm wrong. OST was... Reach and OST were the last... Bungie game. Everything else was 343.
Yeah, but wasn't War still within that time frame of Bungie?
I don't think so.
Because I know 2 should not be should be a non-Bungie.
Might be, maybe not, but you might be wrong. Who knows?
Yeah.
Point is, the game wasn't not that good, but the story is critical to the what should happen in Infinite.
Right.
But we'll see tomorrow because tomorrow's release date.
Right.
Moving on. This is the point. Sequels are not always like good. And then this is gonna be the perfect test to see if this sequel is gonna live up to the
expectations. Game, Yeah. Which, if I can use this for my segue, talk about my experience, as I said earlier, Last of Us.
Ooh.
Right. So yeah, I got a disclaimer. This I haven't played part 2. I do not own it, and I have not seen like any walkthroughs of it of any kind.
Do you plan to play it though?
At some point, I do. What I want to say is that I did watch the completionist video on it.
Shout out to the completionist.
Yeah, hell, shout out to that dude. That works a lot for what he does.
Insane guy. I couldn't do that.
I probably wouldn't. If I had the resources, I'd probably do what he'd do too.
I mean, like. The game tells me to collect 100 something. I'll be like, nope.
He has been becoming
I'll get 10.
He has becoming more lenient about his rules of completing.
Nah, I get it. But no, I'm just saying in general.
Yeah, I know.
Cool guy.
But, what's it called? So yeah, sorry. I saw... No worries. No, seriously, though. Just like, check him out. He's a great content creator. So, anyways. So yeah, I watched his video. And then afterwards, I took the plunge and decided to read up the story on Wikipedia.
Oh, so you're kind of spoiled already.
Yeah, like I just know what is told, but I don't know like the specific details of the events of how they play out.
Yeah, you're not visually seeing.
Yeah, I haven't seen it visually to know the impact of some parts, but I know all in all like the basic stories of what has gone on, which includes like a very big thing. So again, I'm gonna also not try to spoil it, just because, again, that I if you haven't, I don't want to ruin that for you. But my thing was that when I played the first game, I remember getting to the end, and the dialogue, or not the dialogue, but the conversation that Joel and Ellie, the two main characters, have at the end of the game, I remember being left satisfied with it because... So, to quickly mention this, Neil Drunkman, who is the... Or Dunkman. Dunkman or Drunkman?
Drunkman.
Right? Drunkman? Yeah. So Neil Drunkman, who is the director of Part 2 and the first game, he mentioned before that like one of the things about Part 1 was that it was written with the concept of love as the theme. And that Part 2 was written with the concept of hate as the theme. Which, funny, just randomly insert this. I remember somewhere someone mentioned that like it's interesting that like Part 2 has been done in the way that Neil Drunkman wanted to, but he always knew it was probably going to be divisive as well for what he wanted to do with it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how he was like prepared for that, or prepared to some people, because some of the reactions that he has had, some people would say that he doesn't know how to take criticism, but that's not the discussion here. But my point is that so Part 1 was written with that, but I always felt that Part 1 had more in line with the themes of trust. Because every time you were introduced to certain characters and what you were to do with them, or what the story would tell you about how you should feel about them, there was always this underlining matter of like, do you trust this person with what it is? Like, and again, like in the first round, you were meant to like try to trust your partner because it was like, you've been running with them for so long that like when they asked you to do something, you were there now but you were there left with a choice of, well, maybe I shouldn't say choice because again, this is a story-driven thing, but like it was the fact that like Joel was now presented with the situation of, I've been working with them for so long, and I should be able to go along with what they're asking me, but at the same time, with the world that we're in, how can I possibly have any faith in this matter? But it was just one of those things where he went along with it in the end because that was ultimately what he decided with his partner. And that's just one of the examples, because every time something new in the story beat went off, it was always something of a reflection of like trust. Like, do you trust a stranger to help you in a dire need of situation? Do you trust somebody that you feel like you should know? And can you trust somebody that you learn to grow a relationship and a bond with? So when it got to that ending, when it got to that final scene where they talk with each other, and when it gets to the moment where they have a discussion, a very important discussion because of what happens at the end of the game, it was such a satisfying moment to me. And I was like, that's it. That's all I need from this game.
Yeah.
And like, it was just one of those things where it's like, I don't need any more Last of Us, or I wouldn't want more Last of Us involving Joel and Ellie, because to me, their story felt like it ended right there when it got to that moment. And so, when Last of Us Part 2 was announced, I was a bit on the hesitant side, because I was like, I got that ending. I got what I needed. I don't know what else they can tell that I need to learn from them. And so, with everything I learned from the new game, it's been not disappointing, but it is one of those things where it's like, yeah, I don't see what else was left for me to learn about it. And again, this is one of those weird things where, since he said that the story was going to revolve around the matter of hate, it obviously was going to appeal to what I enjoyed about the first game. So I knew that like that wasn't going to happen, but it was still one of those things of like, yeah, I don't know. I have no immediate desire to play Part 2. I would like to play it at some point, but as it is, I don't think I'd immediately go for it, should the option arise of that in another game I could get.
Do you think this falls under the category of a bad sequel, though?
So, I think if you're asking me, again, as I haven't played it, I couldn't tell you that it's bad.
Mhm.
But from the zeitgeist of it, you can see that a lot of people are very much, it's a bad game, it should never have happened, what the hell's wrong with you, Naughty Dog?
Is the reaction due to the fact that they weren't established, like, I guess, and when I mean relationship, I mean a relationship between, like,
The communication.
family, as a family, Joe and Ellie,
right.
as a family. Was the reasoning behind that it's a bad one because something happens between them and that shouldn't have happened because they ended in good terms? Because, as humans, we know that even though we are in good terms with someone, the littlest thing can set us apart.
Right.
And it can set a big gap between, like, how we think of that other person.
Right. I don't think that's necessarily what made it the bad sequel, as it was just what some would claim is how they treated the characters. Because, again, like...
They did your boy dirty? Killed Joe? Huh? Is that what happened? FYI, I haven't played the game.
Yeah, neither one of us has played part 2 yet, or even part 1 for your case.
Well, yeah, I haven't played part 1.
But, yeah, it's just... I'm not upset about it, because I feel like, again, I don't know how Joel is in part 2 just yet, because I haven't seen any cutscenes with him. But if my assumption about it is how I imagine it to be, and based on one little tidbit I saw, I can see that, like, the way he was, and I can understand that, like, as time has gone on, he's probably become more lax and loose, and, like, maybe as he got older, like, he may have been losing a bit of, like, his mentality. Not like he was going insane or anything, but just, like, as time goes on, like, You
get slower?
Yeah, you just get slower. So, like, I feel like based on my understanding of that, it's like, I can see how that would occur for what happens.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. I feel like maybe for some people, they're just blowing it way out of proportion for what it is.
Yeah.
Granted that, yeah, I think it sucks when, like, your favorite character just dies and you're like, oh my god. But, for all that it is, I think the only reason why people keep saying it's a bad game is just because of what they did to Joel. And then even the subsidiary matter of, well, yeah, Abby is a bad character because she did that to Joel and, she doesn't look right and all that.
Abby's a bad character because she can beat you up. You know it. You don't like it.
Oh, man. I'm going to, like, avoid playing into that. But...
pretty sure we're right.
Yeah. That said, though, I do think that was really messed up of people telling Laura Bailey, who was her voice actress, to die.
Oh, that's bleep this, but that's effed up, dude.
Yeah, just straight up messed up that they were faulting her for what had happened. So that's one of those other things when we talk about people saying it's a bad sequel. Like, the one element that made it bad, people are now using that as a means for the other elements they want to start criticizing.
Yeah.
And so then they got into a whole big thing about, like, Neil Druckmann being a bad director, and even, like, oh, he was, like, trying to, like, get away with, like, quote-unquote fake sex, I guess. Because there's a mocap moment in the...
Oh.
Yeah. So there's a part where two characters get hot and heavy, if you will.
Yeah.
And in real life, the part was, I guess, mocap. I haven't seen anything officially stated that it was a mocap scene. But a lot of people were just saying that it was just... that the only reason why it was in there was because he was trying to live out a fantasy and some stuff like that and some other crap that... Again, this is one of those things where sometimes I think people, when they get way too heated on something, they start to use that as a means to justify other elements that they either already felt they already had problems to begin with, or they just want to find new faults to get mad at.
Okay, people, get over it. That's how cutscenes are made now. Let's stop already.
Right. But that's why... calling Last of Us 2 a bad sequel is a weird thing for me, because as an outsider who hasn't played it yet, and only the knowledge I have, I can see why someone would already dislike it to begin with.
Yeah.
But for the extent that I've seen it get to, it's more like, guys, y'all need to chill for a minute, alright?
Yeah.
There are other things to criticize that aren't just so basic for what it is.
Of course.
So that's why, like, Last of Us 2 is such an interesting discussion point about about one, the warranty of a sequel, and two, the elements of a bad sequel, just because of the what would I say here? The culture surrounding it. No, it's over there. Yeah, that's a really weird one for me. Because again, like I didn't have any plans to really get into part 2 after the fact, and as it stands now, I'm still not going to immediately be getting the game anytime soon, as far as I'm aware. So that,
Damn.
yeah. But again, that's just because it was like, again, I thought the first game ended perfectly. So anything after the fact was like, if it's a new setting, sure, I'll pick it up. New characters, new games, sure. But since it's a continuation to a story, I thought that ended already well. Excuse me. I was just a little, not bummed, but it was a little more like, okay. Sadly, we are getting a follow-up.
I get you. Okay, yeah. Do you think majority of the fan base would say it's a bad thing, the sequel?
I think a lot of them would say it's a bad sequel. If, just because when you just think about, like, the first thing that, like, pops up, because, like, I would say that, like, it's seen as a bad sequel because the amount of people who disliked it so much was so strong that it would come to you that it was learned that it was a bad game without you actively looking up.
Oh, okay.
That's how I would perceive it. Granted that maybe some people would say that that's just the loud minority being more, or the vocal minority. Yeah, the vocal minority that is louder than the majority of that are just like, yeah, it's an alright game. But I still feel that, like, there's some element of warranty to say that it's so strong the dislike that you didn't have to even actively search for it. It would just come to you somehow.
Got it. Let's use this as another way to move on to other medias. Granted, we know we're not just talking about games and anime. We're talking about movies as well that had sequels that really, like, you could have done better not making,
Right.
one.
Right.
So, I'm gonna start it off with damn, I'm blanking here. Sorry, guys.
The one I brought up earlier?
About what?
Zombieland?
Yes, thanks for the reminder. Zombieland Double Tap. It's the sequel to Zombieland.
Right.
And I didn't watch it release. Didn't catch my interest, even though the first one did catch my interest.
Right.
And this, for those who don't know, you're the better of the half. Who are the actors?
Let's see. The main cast, if I can recall for the most part, is you have the main character Columbus, who's Jesse Eisenberg. There's Tallahassee, who is Michael Rooker, I believe is
Michael Rooker.
It could be Michael Rooker, or it's somebody else. I might be remembering it wrong.
Tallahassee is Woody Harris.
There we go, Woody Harrelson.
I
don't know. Michael Rooker and Woody Harrelson to me look the same sometimes. But yeah, there we go.
Wichita is Emma Stone.
Right.
Abigail is Little Rock. I'm sorry. Little Rock is Abigail.
That's the only one I knew. I didn't know the name of for Little Rock.
Madison is Zoe Deutsch. I'm sorry if I mispronounced her name.
Wait, is this the character that's introduced in Double Tap?
Pretty sure.
Because I was only going to just name off the 4 main cast.
Well, let's just go with the 4 main cast.
Yeah. So, those are the 4.
It's a typical zombie movie.
Right.
The whole point is that
people just surviving out of the zombie lands.
Columbus has his own set of rules. If you haven't seen it, it's a slight spoilers. It's not a big deal.
I mean, it's straight up introduced right from the get-go.
His rules of how he survives the zombie land.
Right.
Roll the credits. Let's move on to the next movie. It's a zombie flick. What more do you want? There's gonna be zombies. There's gonna be guns. There's gonna be
death.
The slight
blood and violence.
Yes, the slight jump scare of the zombie creeping up on the person.
Right.
The first one, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'd argue that still holds well even now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you will enjoy it just watching it now. But the problem that I had with the second one is that I didn't think it was funny. I didn't think it was needed, and the story was really like pointless too. I mean, what more can you do in a zombie infested world?
Right.
It's one of those things that you know the end is going to be that they have to survive. What other options do you have? There's no way that the Columbus is going to find a cure to kill
among those four, no way any
no
of them
one's
are going to find
a cure. You know, or they might, you know, they could either do the route that they meet a group that happens to be scientists, happens to say they know the cure, but it ends up being the bad guys in the end, and Columbus, you know, saves the day, woohoo!
Right.
But it's a zombie flick. You've seen it. You've seen one. You've seen them all, right?
Right.
The thing with this one is that I think the jokes were a little too outdated, and the dilemma of what's her name, Abigail, right?
The small sister?
Yeah, the small sister.
Yeah, Abigail.
Or Little Rock. I'm sorry. We'll just go by the names of their movie names, right? Little Rock saying, "I'm an adult. I'm gonna go do what I want." You know?
Yeah.
Like, and in the end, it's justified. You know, it's the end of the world. She could do whatever the heck she wants, but the whole thing is about family. You know, they stay as a group, we'll survive as a family, and all that stuff.
Right.
You get it. You got that lesson at the very first movie, but they're redoing it again in the second movie.
Right.
It's just that Little Rock is a teen now, so there's that teen drama and all that stuff. I personally think that movie was whack.
I remember because I went to go watch it in theaters, and I remember thinking at the end was like, I didn't dislike it. Like, I was fine with it, but I can see what you mean by like the outdated part with it, which I only would say is because Zombieland came out in a moment where basically zombies were such a big craze in media, and it just landed in the right place and time to be done, and so once that died out, because zombie hype died out like somewhere like in the mid 2010s, I think. Yeah, like the need of the sequel started to become less. Not warranted, but less desired. Because I remember that it was like, that movie did so amazing that people were hoping the follow would come up soon. And by and large, it did eventually. But for when it should have came out, it never did. Yeah. And granted that, like, I think, because again, so this is something that I don't know how many people are aware of, but so one of the attempts of trying to continue the Zombieland sort of like media for it was that there was going to be a TV show, and you can probably find it somewhere online, but so it was going to be actually an Amazon exclusive at the time, and it was going to run through it, and so they put the pilot up. That pilot did not do well with people. Like, it was just destroyed with reviews, and it did so bad that Amazon just pulled it off of their service. And so, like, it only exists online by some other uploads, which I happen to find as the type of, like, YouTube type of, like, in the corner with flashy background.
Or with an an anime.
Right, anime picture in the background to entice them weebs. Yeah. But, yeah, so I remember, like, I watched it, and I think it was interesting how you mentioned about the whole, like, goal at the end is to survive, because I feel like the difference between, like, TV show to movie is that with the movie, it's one story extended for an hour and a half. Exactly. TV show is, you can make such selective story within those 23 minutes of each episode that you can warrant any, like, new little, like, story they try to do. Yeah. And I guess that was probably what they wanted to do, because Zombieland actually wasn't initially written as a show first before it got turned into a movie. And then they were going to try to redo the TV show aspect of it. But since it never came to fruition, it just left it on the cutting board for a long time. Or not the cutting board, on the shelf for a long time. And that's why when you get to Double Tap, it's unfortunate that that's what happened. Because I think if it came out back then, it still could have worked. But it's a movie that I think was a little too little too late type of situation. And again, I didn't dislike it, and I walked away being like, yeah, that was fine. I didn't feel like I wasted my time, but I can see the issues that came from it, which this was actually something we were saying earlier, was like one of the big things about the way that Double Tap starts off is naturally with a movie coming out so many years after the fact, you sort of have to say like, well, what's going on in the world in that time? So once that happens, you have to start establishing a lore. Now, it's not as if though Zombieland couldn't do that, it's just Zombieland was never necessarily about the world and the lore behind the zombies. But because it had been nearly a decade, it's like, well, I guess what happened within the time frame of that.
Yeah, it was more, I saw it more of as, hey guys, this is a reminder of how our world works, you know. This is where, as you know, as you said earlier, we were talking about it. I think them coming to explain how there are new types of zombies, evolving zombies, as they would put it, you know. Right. They started categorizing them. The slow ones, the dumb ones, the fast ones. And I think that would have been interesting if you stated it in the beginning, in the first movie. Then it would have put more of a dramatic and more tense situation, because you would be like, okay, not all zombies are dumb. Because, you know, you can outrun the walking zombie.
Right.
Then the zombie that walks on walls or is chasing you, like
the runners.
The runners, you know, those are dangerous. You know?
Rule number one, cardio.
Cardio. Yeah, exactly. Even Columbus is gonna explain the rules, right? So it's just that this new lore, this new world building, yes, it's necessary for all new movies. I just think it should have been in the first one.
Yeah, and again, this was something I also brought up earlier with the discussion, was that it started reminding me a bit of like The Predator, which is the fourth movie in the Predator series, and sort of like the way that people were very disappointed with it because when it decided to try to elaborate on the lore of the Predators in that movie. Because, again, the first movie worked well because it was essentially subverting the elements of an 80s action film, where all these men that you see in there that are typically from these type of movies of that decade, you know, going in, guns a-blazing, nothing could ever go wrong because they will always come out in the end looking awesome and manly. But then here's this threat that comes out of nowhere, and it's just like, yeah, every time you think that they would ever get away scot-free, nope, here we go. This is this thing that's just taking them out. And so, it's always been
the thrill of the chase.
Yeah, it's always been the thrill of the chase, because you would see that it's like, every time it was always this action hero, here's this thing that shows, no, you do not get to get away with everything that you want. I'm going to show you that everything has a threat to it.
It's like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. When you think you ran away from him, he's around the corner. You know? Right. So, it's the same thing with the Predator, right?
Well, I haven't seen the Texas myself, but if that's how it works there, then probably, yeah. But yeah, so, you know, that was just the thing. And then, even an argument about the entire, like, Predator franchise has an interesting thing about how the Predator exists, because some people did not think that the sequel, Predator 2, was already not great to begin with. Predators, which was the third one, I think also didn't really get good reception. Like, it was a pretty mixed type of one. Then the Predator happened, some people just straight up believe that it's like, this killed the franchise. That's how bad they thought it was.
Damn.
Yeah. And, you know, I can get what sort of Predator was trying to go for, because, again, the first one was supposed to be about a take about the 80s action hero. And the following one, I think, was supposed to take on what was considered the action of, I think, because the second one, I think, took place in the 90s. Mm-hmm. So I believe that Predator was made in the idea that it was supposed to be how the Predator would handle a 90s action hero. Because this was back when the craze of, like, buddy cop films were happening and whatnot. Like, sort of the diehards of that world.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Well, I think Die Hard was still an 80s film, but I think for the 90s, it was like everybody was more of a... not wilder. They were just, like, a different form of... Like, you can usually tell the difference between an 80s and 90s action hero. But overall, Predator was about, like, the way that they would always be, here's the Predator handling the action hero that we know of the time period they're coming from.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I guess after a while, they didn't really know the proper way of to criticize it, I guess, if you will. So when they were getting into the Predator, I guess they decided, well, maybe we'll just expand upon the lore, even though that's already like what all the comic books did and video games for the Predator did to begin with. But yeah, the fourth movie tried to be a little bit more elaborate on that, and it didn't exactly work out. So that was an interesting case of a sequel considered bad. And there was something that came to mind when I was thinking about it, when Predator and whatnot. Oh, actually, no, it was just still connected to about the Zombieland thing. But anyways, yeah, Predator was interesting about like what it means to try to continue a franchise that, while the premise can work a lot of the time, if the people who are trying to do it, or not so much, I'm trying to say that you always need to blame the people behind it. I think the way it was warranted, unfortunately, didn't work out like they hoped for, and that's why like Predator didn't work out the way they wanted it to in regards for sequels. And at this point, I don't even know if I'd say that like quote unquote a reboot would work, because even Aliens is in a really weird position.
Okay, I thought you said reboots. Let's go into reboots about it.
Right.
Let's talk about shows who, came out a certain year and then that we got a silent period, and out of nowhere, we get hit with a reboot.
Right.
You want to start it off?
Sure.
All right. What's the first media that you think has really didn't need a reboot?
Oh, that way. I thought we were just going to talk about reboots in general, because I was going to circle this back to the God of War thing.
Oh, okay. We'll start off with that.
All right. So in a weird situation about God of War, it's a sequel to everything that happened after God of War 3, but God of War 4 is also technically a reboot because of the new direction it was going for. And this leads back into that weird situation about the warranty of like, well, did it need to happen? Because again, for God of War 4 to have worked, it needed to do a new direction that was not existent previously. And that can always lead to a lot of, how do you say, displeasures that people had with it. Just because, again, like, because I'm pretty sure, like, like, kind of like that one time I told you how there's, like, that guy that did, like, multitude of videos that were connected, but the way it first started was because it was the God of War video where he explained he didn't like the way it was going with God of War. And so that's the other interesting thing about, like, reboots is the way of where they exist is, like, are reboots in the same vein of sequels in which they count as a sequel, or is it its own separate entry and how much you have to hold it to its own merits?
I would argue it's the latter. It has its own entity. It's trying to live off the hype that the previous entries brought in.
Okay,
but it's make its own thing at the same time. Like, God of War is God of War. From what we know it's the same character. It's just not the same game.
Right.
Nothing functions how it did in the old previous entries, and I think that's a win, because at the end you start falling into the same repetition that the Call of Duty franchise is known to fall into. It's the same game, just with a new mechanic. And you're like, and you can argue, there's that one person telling me, well, it's technically a new game because they have a new mechanic. No, it's not a new game. It's just they just added something new and shiny. Infinite, right? I think that's the space one.
Infinite Warfare.
Infinite Warfare.
Yeah.
You can go in space. Ooh. Call of Duty World War II. You're on World War II. It's in the title.
It's not like they've never done that before.
What? it's like they're going back to their roots. Oh my god. Oh my god. Modern Warfare. It's in the name. You're using modern guns.
Yeah, Madden Warfare.
Oh my god.
Dude, just chuck a football, it turns into a nuke.
Oof. It's just, the game is not new. It's you can call it a sequel, but it's not, because it's.
Well, I mean, does sequel warrant in the case of the story or just everything within it?
Everything within it.
Okay.
Because
well then,
look, hold on.
Well, no, I was just gonna quickly say that it's like Is that a weird way to put it? That when you also have to talk about like shows and movies?
No, that was my thing.
Okay.
Because
please elaborate.
in Call of Duty, when I mean sequel, I mean it's just the next upcoming game from that.
Right.
From the 2003 one, the 2004 is the sequel, right?
Mm-hmm.
In medias like TV shows or an anime or in a movie, they are sequels because they are continuing right off from
the
previous entries, either a 10-year time skip or literally one day or a year later.
Okay.
But they're still the same character, and nothing world breaking happened. And Call of Duty just falls into that part where not all they're taking pre-existing like history,
Mm-hmm.
World War II, World War One, and they're making a game out of it, right? So you can technically call it a sequel if the next game after World War II is the Vietnam War.
Okay.
Because it's just replaying, American history or world history.
Mm-hmm.
But then once you get into the future, aspect stuff, it's the same game, just a different war. It's not creative.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, Call of Duty is. I'm not sure which way I would put Call of Duty myself personally, because it's harder for me to not identify, but I think it's a little bit trickier when you talk about franchises and what they want to do, and that can vary in time to time when you talk about like franchises, because like Call of Duty is a franchise, but then something as small as Devil May Cry can still technically be considered a franchise, even if it isn't as elaborate as Call of Duty has gotten to be. But, it's always that, like, weird levels of, like, trying to identify, like, the way you would, like, talk about everything in entirety for what you'd say as it continues, how sequels feel in follow-up to those.
Okay, well, here's a question. If you started DMC, what do you think about it? Prequel? Good? Or just an original idea,
Wait, are we talking about the third game, or are we talking about the DMC reboot?
DMC reboot.
Okay. That's... Okay, maybe my biasness is going to show here, and bear in mind, I haven't played...
He loves it.
I haven't played too many DMCs, because I bought the HD collection for my 360, but then that thing broke, so I only ever finished 1 and 4.
He thinks those suck, but the DMC is good. No, I'm just joking.
Look out for next time when it's only one host, me. I have very big gripes about the DMC reboot. Gameplay-wise, it's not bad, but at the same time, in comparison to some other stuff, it's very... not shallow, but it doesn't feel like it can have as much as it could be running through. And it's easy to exploit some things, which some people may say that that's not bad, some may say that's good, but I think the exploitable things of it aren't exactly praiseworthy in a way. So, gameplay I think was a pretty alright, nothing too much big to write home about. Dante as a character, oh boy.
Do you not like Dante because he's a Chad?
Is that what it is? DMC Chad versus Devil May Cry Virgin?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Is that why you don't like Dante? Let's be honest here.
Oh my god. Oh man, dude.
Chad Dante versus Virgin Dante?
I like to
Who do
see
you
that
prefer?
somewhere out there.
I mean, they still follow the story of the original. Granted, it doesn't really, huh?
Yeah, no. Like, as...
Because they do have Mondes.
Yeah, they
Virgil.
Basically, they have the names, but the way that the characters are done are much different. And if at least because of the fact that, like, I think they did say that, like, because again, Dante and Virgil are names that are drawn very much from the Divine Comedy. Mm-hmm. You know, Dante's Inferno and all that. And so I think they decided, well, they're named after it, might as well actually use the story as a means of base. Even though, like, Devil May Cry was never necessarily intended to be a Divine Comedy, like, retelling.
Yeah.
It just used the names by chance. Or not, probably not by chance, but, like, The names are just the names. It's not meant to connect itself to it. But DMC decided to do that. And so the story is very much like written in the sense of I think it really plays a lot more into the angel and hell type of stuff. Because this is one of those things where it's like original Devil May Cry, Dante is half demon but half human.
Yeah.
Like that's his thing. But in DMC Reboot, he's half angel, half demon.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah. So it's very different about what they were doing for all that. And like I said, when it comes to sort of Dante's character and even to the story, it's not my cup of tea, if at least because I don't like the writing half of the time in DMC. It's way too, for lack of a better word, cringe-inducing for some things that happen. And as time has gone on, I won't say I've been more accepting, but I've been more lenient about it, so I'm not as critical about it, but I still have my issues with some of the elements and directions they went with it.
Does that include the current Devil May Cry 5?
Well, because here's the thing. So, if you were to compare how Dante acts in DMC and then how he acts in the main games, you see how very much more clever he is about how he approaches his conversations.
Yeah.
Because,
witty.
Yeah. Because DMC Dante will probably drop a more,
the F-bomb.
Yeah, he'll drop an F-bomb and then choose some slang word to use against you for the insult. While, in the original ones, in 3, there's a part where you run into Cerberus, and he's just like, okay, come on, Fido, let's go. Let's play. He's having more of a cocky, fun attitude with it. And you can, respect, the way it sounds, because that sounds a little bit more... Maybe I'm weird this way, but I feel like when you can insult your enemy without cursing them out, I feel like that's belittling them more than you would than if you curse them out.
Yeah, they're showing that they're not a threat.
Yeah, and I think it's also a thing of, you show you have more intelligence than them, and, there's just many things about it, and that's why, when I think about DMC, it's just... And this is something to reflect earlier I was saying about not blaming creators, because I've learned from a video from Foxcade, which is called the DMC Retrospective, was that basically they didn't exactly mean to do this to Dante, because they still wanted to make something very akin to the older Dantes. But Capcom was very much like, no, we want you to make sure you do a Dante that's appealing to everybody. Unfortunately, I think they didn't have the right interpretation of what appeals to everybody, and that Dante did not turn out enjoyable to majority, because I know there's some people who like it, and I'm not going to just say to disown them and be like, you were invalid of everything.
Yes, my word is law.
But, it's just... DMC is...
Could you argue that it's just Dante being
edgy?
Younger, edgy?
Well, there was a thing where some people could have tried to be like, oh man, could this have set up as a prequel to the actual main stuff? But then that would be conflicting things, because again, he's a half human demon, not half angel demon.
Yeah, where Dante's personality shine is that he gets his down to earth part from being human.
Yeah, that's his biggest strength, is that he hasn't gone full crazy, because
he doesn't think he's a benevolent god or a benevolent demon.
He just knows that he's just part demon,
and his human side is what grounds him to earth.
Yeah. Which is where you get the fact that's what makes his rivalry with his brother so great, because of the way that they both handled about what they accept of themselves as people.
Yes. Virgil sees himself as a demon only, and then Dante he thinks he's human, even though he's really not.
Yeah, but he chooses to
live
embrace that. Yeah,
as a human.
And again, that's why because again, Devil May Cry has never necessarily been the biggest on story for the most part.
Yeah,
but for the little bits that are there, I think it works extremely well, and that's why Reboot Dante is very, unfortunately, annoying. Because of how much they wanted to play this piss attitude of just screw the world, screw everything. I live by my own abiding rules, and it's but don't be such a jerk about it.
Yeah, I get you.
So that's why DMC, you'll find that probably a lot of people will say that it's already bad to begin with, I think it's been less harsh over the years, but it's probably still something that some people are just like, if you were to have the choice, they still play normal Devil May Cry over DMC, just because it's like you have a more solid time with that version, with the main one, excluding 2 for some people or majority of people.
Yeah.
And versus if you were to play that reboot game.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Any other game you can think of?
Reboot wise,
or media or movie?
I think one of the things I remember was the 2 other discussions was about like Marvel and Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
So I guess to knock like the bigger one out of the way, Star Wars.
Should have never made the other movies.
The new trilogy should never have happened.
And look, this is not this is a sexism thing. You don't like the strong women, and all that stuff. Oh, you could be more wrong than ever. I love strong women.
Actually, man, every time we do stuff like this, I feel like we are just insulting everyone who will watch this. But anyways,
and you get mad about it, and you want to comment on the section below why I'm so wrong. Go ahead. I want to challenge you, on that, because it wasn't great. It wasn't a good movie. It was really one of those. It goes into our first topic, a movie that shouldn't have existed. The sequel was not that good. It's not that really Palpatine the whole time.
Oh man, this actually makes me, now that we're talking about Palpatine, I got reminded of a bit of a tidbit that makes me think a lot about like the trilogy exists in that weird way of where they're the new canon just because Disney just went and just axed everything that wasn't the first 6 movies.
That's true.
So like it's its own new world right now. Granted that I'm pretty sure there's been some other media because like was it Fallen Order is now part of its like
and then
continuity and whatnot.
Also the animated series.
Oh yeah, the Clone Wars that is currently airing.
The Clone Wars is currently airing.
But wouldn't that also mean because that's the sequel to the other previous Clone Wars that still counts? Yeah,
that's still technically just finished for the old.
Right.
It's not new, current stuff that's happening right now.
Right.
But it includes Rey and Finn, and all the other guys.
Right.
This just wasn't good. The movie sucked. There wasn't, and now it's not that there wasn't action or anything like that. There was really good choreographed scenes, but at the end, their reasons was just so predictable, bad. I don't know what else to say.
I've been fine with the new trilogy for the most part. I do think that their writing, I think, has been slightly affected a bit because it did seem like when they did the 8th movie, there were plans for a way to go, but then it looked like some of it was scrapped once they went into the 9th film. So some threads seemed a little left opened. And I say that because the 9th film felt like it introduced some like major plot points and characters that like were so last minute. And it's like, wait, where was the build up on that? And so the new trilogy has always been a bit weird for me, I guess, because like I'm fine with it, but at the same time, if we were to somehow be put in the past and I was given the option of either it being someone going, if you have the option to axe it or let it happen, or not axe it, because I don't want to say I would be like, yeah, go do it, but I mean, if it was a thing of the choice of being like, should they or should they not exist, I think, because I'm using this word loosely, I am a casual fan of Star Wars. I would be under the guise of being like, yeah, we can do without the new trilogy, because I'm not too sure what I can say we've gained from this new one that, like, could probably already maybe existed in some other part of the universe that existed beforehand.
Exactly. Everything that happened right now is stuff that already existed in the extended universe. The comics and the other medias they had.
Right.
But since Disney wants to be king of everything, they axed it.
Which, rip Force Unleashed.
Exactly, because that game was awesome. Point is, my movie could have done better if one Palpatine was in the main villain. Literally, just could have left Snoke being the main guy. Just put him to the last movie. Made if you're gonna convert someone to the dark, have him go all the way like Anakin. Even Anakin became good at the very end.
The last form of redemption. Right?
Yeah, like it's the thing is that you can consider these movies more reboots instead of sequels.
You're right,
because they're really literally rehashing the same things from the old movies.
And again, since the fact that this is a new trilogy, in the fact that Disney again acts the entire extended universe, they do act as the starting point for all the new stuff.
Exactly. Freaking Rey is the New Hope. Is Luke from the New Hope? What's it called? What's the other ones?
Let's see now. Return of the Jedi was, I think, episode 6, right?
Yeah. Return of the Jedi is the second movie, which would be the 7th movie, right? Right?
Yeah. No, second movie of the new trilogy would be the 8th movie.
I'm sorry, thank you. The 8th movie would be
then
The Return of the Jedi.
Empire Strikes Back, I think, is the 6th movie? Or was that the 5th movie?
Empire Strikes Back is the first movie, no?
No, isn't A New Hope the 4th movie?
Is it the last one? Let me look this up.
Yeah, the naming convention sometimes trips me
up. I just go by numbers.
1, 2, I'm 3, pretty 4, sure. 5. Yeah, I think everyone. It's kind of like
fine. Let's go with numbers.
Right.
All right. So the 4th movie, where Luke gets introduced,
right,
is basically where Rey gets introduced
in the
7th movie. Yeah, in the 7th movie, I gotta remember that 6 is where we end.
Right.
The old ones.
Right. And then 7th is
the 7th is basically
no, we just established
that. Yeah,
the 5th is to the 8th.
Is to the 8th, and the 6th
is to the 9th.
If you were to literally stack those movies together, they would be a 1-to-1 thing. Luke kills Palpatine in the last movie. It's literally the same as Rey killing Palpatine in the last movie.
But this time, she fought more unlimited power.
Oh. Yeah, it's true. Vader sacrificing himself as a redemption thing for his son is the same thing as Kylo Ren realizing
Excuse me, sir. He died as Ben Solo.
Ben Solo realizing he was in the bad side the whole time, and that's his, that's his, I guess, redemption story. I don't know, man. It's so bad. It's a movie I enjoyed at the time, but when I reflect on it, it wasn't written that good.
Yeah. Again, I don't hate them, but I could definitely do without them.
It is sad because I really like the director who makes them.
J.J. Abrams?
Yes.
So, yeah, that's one of those big medias about sequels, which then, as I said earlier, for the other one is Marvel's movies.
What?
So this is actually less about specific movies and more about the way that the phases were.
Oh, okay.
So, I'm going to admit something here. I don't think I have any plans to follow any of the movies after Black Widow once they start happening.
I'm going to be serious here. I don't even want to watch Black Widow. And I just think she's the most boring character there is. I'm sorry. And I know, but when you have a God of Thunder,
a billionaire playboy philanthropist.
Yeah, philanthropist, and that has a mech suit.
Oh.
You got
Grandpa.
The grandpa who can lift cars and throw a freaking shield
with precise precision.
Yeah, and a man who is secretly angry all the time and turns green. Yeah. A secret agent spy is the least important person in the team.
Even less important than Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Damn, if people don't like Hawkeye,
I don't even like Hawkeye either. But Black Widow was less like important.
Oh man, but
Think about it. In Age of Ultron, she wasn't even supposed to go help the team. Hulk was supposed to. Bruce Banner was supposed to run away with Wonder Woman.
Oh man, I want to see that crossover. Bruce Banner hooking up with Diana. Is that her name?
Diana,
Yeah,
Skira, whatever.
yeah.
No, let me correct myself. Bruce Banner was supposed to run with Natasha away from the battle. You know,
Right.
they weren't supposed to go up there.
yeah.
You know, at the floating island.
Right.
But
There they were.
there they were. Even Hawkeye was there. He was relaying traffic to for people to get
Go
out.
this way.
Go this way, but he was still helping. But they, Avengers assemble and shit.
But she did trick Loki in the first Avengers, though. When they needed to find out why he was on there.
Oh yeah, I forgot. But
See, she has value. Oh my god, this is gonna turn out.
That just falls to Loki's god complex. He thinks he's above everyone. Yeah.
But she knew to play into that. Anyways, that our point is not here. At least my point isn't here trying to criticize Black Widow. But so my thing about it is that, like, again, so the biggest thing about MCU to me about all the phases was that, like, I feel like for everything that's gone on, I got the ending I needed for this investment with Endgame.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
like for everything that started all the way from that first film in 2008 with Iron Man, I got all that I needed when Endgame happened. And so I remember that once that went on, I felt the complete satisfaction to say I have no desire to see any of the following films afterwards because I got what I wanted out of Endgame. And outside of Black Widow, which is just to finally get like a closure on her story, everybody else is more like, yeah, I mean,
we're done.
yeah.
We don't need. I mean, while we are gonna see them, let's be honest.
I mean, I'll probably see them in some passing form.
I would be perfectly fine without going into what is this phase 5 basically?
5 to 6, I think they got planned out.
At the end,
Which I think is like still including the TV shows as well.
yeah, they're more of side projects than actual continuation.
Granted that like it's important to see some of the TV shows now too to get some of the
Which sucks.
Yeah, that's why it's like the other bigger thing is like, whoa, hey, hold on. I already had trouble watching some of the spin-offs back with the original first 4 phases. Now I actually watch the TV shows. I don't know about that one.
This is all of Disney's evil plan to get us to pay for their streaming service.
Right.
We're on to you, Disney. Unless you sponsor us, then we'll take it back.
He will. I won't.
I will.
But yeah, that's, again, like that's the thing about, and it's not to say that the world can't stop evolving in, the Marvel movies.
Oh yeah.
But I feel like it's just because the way you can feel it in comics versus the way you'll feel it in movies is that you have more freedom and time with a comic to develop the world that you create, while with the movies, you can feel as time is moving on. And I feel that if trying to invest into Marvel still after Endgame feels like it's still going to have to wait for more. Because again, who knows how long it will take for them to get to the next major story moment of time. Because as it is, because first and foremost, like Thanos has been completely retooled for what the MCU needed. Because again, like Thanos is a threat in the comics, but I feel like half the time I've ever seen him, he seems like a giant pushover. Like people can beat him on like a whim.
Hey, he's a man in love.
Apparently, and that's getting him. He's a big simp.
He's a big simp. He's simping over death.
Yep. But yeah, that's the one.
You know what would be funny if the MCU actually did that? Like the whole movie was
just about death.
Just about death. Him trying to simp over death.
Damn, that would have made retrospect of the MCU movies so funny. But but yeah, like it's just
let's just take it in perspective. Iron Man died because Thanos trying to smash death.
Oh man. I mean, Actually, I don't think death was even the concept when Thanos was first introduced for Infinity Gauntlet.
No.
Yeah. But it is one of those things where, again, like, who knows how long it will take for them to get to the next major, like, big event they want to do for the following films. Because, like, outside of Thanos, any other major threat is, like, I'm not sure who else is so powerful they've caused some major things. Because, like, they've already used the Civil War storyline for Captain America. And even then, it wasn't even for the same reasons for why it happened in the comics. And Galactus is going to be interesting to see if they do it, since they did get finally the rights off of Fox for Fantastic Four. So they use him as one of the villains. That'll be interesting. But outside of that, and I say that because I'm not that well versed within the comic book lore of Marvel, so I don't know who other big threats exist that could unite so many heroes to come in to fight.
Well, there are other ones, but they're all celestial beings that really don't interfere with humans.
Because I just realized also, like, Ultron also got used up already for Age of Ultron.
Yeah, Ultron would have been a great, another Thanos level villain.
Yeah,
but it's something that should have been done in steps instead of just one whole movie. Because Ultron never died in the comics. He always like escapes into something,
Right.
And then in this one, they just straight up killed him. There is no Ultron.
Right.
Granted that the time change, how they went back into the past, might affect
some stuff,
but I doubt it.
Yeah. So that's why.
Plus it's one of those things that you got to realize that sometimes the actors might not want to come back.
Yeah.
I don't know. I might be wrong with Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. I don't think he wants to come back for another Iron Man movie.
Okay, I remember he explained this somewhere, and I'm forgetting which one it was.
And I know they killed him, but
yeah, they were saying that, like, what if they do like time traveling shenanigans and, like, boom, bring back Tony Stark, and he explained something. He was like, I think it wasn't so much he was opposed to the idea, but he was like, I've completed the journey that character needed.
Exactly.
So I don't know what more I could possibly do with him.
Exactly. Like, you gotta think of it as also not just from what the studio would want to do, but what the actors would want to do as well. Yeah. Unless you're gonna go reboot the whole thing and get a new Tony Stark, a new Captain America, planes passing by,
helicopter.
What about if it's a plane with a propeller?
I want to see where that invention is going.
What do you mean? There are planes with propellers.
Sure, on the front, not on the top.
That's what I meant.
Well, the planes like that don't fly around here.
Is it can?
Not here.
Okay, whatever. We're getting sidetracked.
Point being is
that there's many steps for all characters that are already gone to come back.
Right. Because I remember even the woman who plays Pepper Potts also said that, like, Endgame was going to be the last time she appeared in the Marvel movies.
Oh.
Yeah, there was like she has no plans to come back to do the character, which is like one of those. So another one of those reflective things about the comic versus the movie format is that naturally in comics, the way if Endgame was a major event for the comics, Pepper Potts would still be a character because you would see how she would exist in a world post Endgame. You know? She was the wife of the savior of the world and has a daughter with him. Yeah. And so it would just be one of those things where it's like, well, how does she handle herself now that she has to be known as the one that the savior of the world fell in love with? But for the movie, since she felt that was the best place to... sorry. Throat's getting
go ahead. No worries.
But yeah. But since that is where she felt it best to end, now she's not going to return, and that does leave it more of her character being... Yeah, her character story is wrapped up, but it would be nice to at least see just that little bit of just being like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do now, forward on as now with the rest of my life.
We now have to focus onto the new phase, which would be like Doctor Strange, another Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Oh yeah, the Nova Corp is going to happen. I totally forgot about that.
The Nova Corp is destroyed.
But, I mean, there's a new one going to come, obviously.
Okay.
Didn't they say that they had plans to do, like, a Nova movie?
I don't remember.
Nope. Movie or TV show, actually. You know, again, this is one of those other things where now I have to remember: is it going to be a TV show or is it going to be a movie? Because like
Falcon movie,
the Falcon and Winter
Falcon
Soldier
is going to be a TV show.
Yeah, it's a TV show, not a movie.
Yeah,
even though I'm pretty sure everyone wanted to see that team up on the big screen.
That would have been cool.
Yeah. You know, I'm a little sad because like one of the characters I was hoping to see was Moon Knight on the big screen.
Who?
Moon Knight.
Moon Knight.
Yeah, he's the one character from Marvel that's like almost pure white, like wears everything, and then like a lot of the time his face is like just in shadow. You only see his eyes. I'll show you a picture afterwards. Yeah. But yeah, he's been one of the characters I've always seen that looks interesting, and when they announced that there was going to be a Moon Knight following up, I was like, oh, cool, it's going to be a movie, but no, Moon Knight's going to be a TV series. So it's just one of the things where it's like,
yeah, I get you.
So, yeah, like, Marvel is one of those things where I'm like, it's not so much that I don't think that a sequel isn't warranted, it's just for the investment for how it played out, if it's going to work around the second time, it's more like, I got the ending I needed for Endgame. There's nothing else left for me. Even if there are some loose threads that exist, it's more like you kept it off in such a perfect moment that I can't imagine anything else I can get from anything following afterwards.
Got it. Yeah, for sure. Wow, that's a lot of shows we don't like. I'm kidding.
Criticizing everything that got a sequel.
Sequels, either good or bad.
Yeah. It's interesting, too, to think that some people just have that mindset of just like, oh, sequels will always inherently be bad. And it's just like, what? No, get off your high horse.
Sequels are good if you can write it correctly.
Right.
Like you always want to see more of your favorite character. But if their time is up, you have to let them go. Mm-hmm. Gosh, that I would love to see Aang in Avatar: Legend of Korra, but can't have two avatars in one.
What's it called? Tell the story of them in their prime adult lives.
Yeah, but you can't have two avatars in one show. So
I guess I'm not familiar with the lore.
Yeah, I understand that. Anyways, any other media you would like to discuss?
Okay, let's talk about the unnecessary sequels to Gundam.
Oh, you want to go there? You want to start? Guys, this podcast is going to be
hosted next time just
7 hours straight.
Oh, man.
Get ready
until the sun explodes.
Yeah. Where do I start?
Oh,
the year is 1987.
No, 1979.
1979. I don't even know when it started.
Yeah, 1979.
And I'm a Gundam fan. Anyways, yeah, you want to start? Oh, no, kidding.
No.
That's another video.
Yeah, franchises are a much bigger thing. Again, that's why earlier I was just having a hard time when I was trying to discuss about franchises.
Yeah, right? One of those things that are hard to explain because there's more than one certain media that goes into it.
Yeah, because again, it's not just that they're sequels, it's just this ever-expanding universe. Because again, like with Halo, it's not just the main games, it's all these spin-offs in different mediums that you have to cover.
Play Halo Wars, guys. Or watch Halo Wars, whatever.
Just get the story of Halo Wars.
The story, because you need to know for Halo Infinite.
Right.
And here's hoping Halo Infinite does something good.
So I guess outside of that, the biggest thing is, hey, if you actually have a sequel that you really liked or disliked or wish there was a sequel to something, or why not say anything?
Remember, guys, Skyking said, sequels bad, reboots good. No, I'm kidding. No, there are some good sequels and some good reboots.
Yeah. I mean, it's always going to be just a bit of everything. Some things are good, some things are bad.
Mm-hmm. And remember, this is always our opinions.
Yeah. Like I said, just tell us what you think. And even if you think that, like the Star Wars new trilogy was good, let us know.
Yeah, let us know so I can tell you how wrong you are. No, I'm kidding.
General Government Midnight Star does not condone or endorse all of Skyking.
Skyking is true to his word. I will not falter. No, I'm kidding. Anyways, thanks for watching, and
without further ado, I guess.
I'm Skyking.
And I'm General Go from Midnight Center.
And thanks for listening to Mad Lad Hours.
Right? Yeah. This is the
first episode of the renaming.
Yep. This is technically episode 5, I think. But so. Now reformed.
Mad Lad Hours. Stay mad. Lads.